Hello and welcome back. Brett here with clickmill.co. In this video, I'm going to share my screen with you again, and we're going to start looking at some other keyword targeting kind of conventions that we're going to want to include in the articles we're writing when we want to talk to Google and get our article in the top page or even in the top position, top 5, something like that. So now, as we continue down, we are going to want to include our keyword, as you can see, Church Growth Scripture 1 in the header 2 title. So this is something that we need to be aware of. This is the header 1 title, which is the article title, and we only have one of those. If we have a whole bunch of header 1s, Google is going to think our article is a bunch of spam, and it's just going to dump us, and we're never going to show up for anything. So we have a header 1, and then the next one for a large section within the article is going to be header 2. Now, when we posted this article, I did not include this. I was trying not to be spammy and stuff keywords in, and I only had Jesus went to where people were, Matthew 9. And we did this for all of the sections. And so you'll see we have section, 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 all of these sections. And so we did not have the keyword Church Growth Scripture for any of them. And the article did not rank well. Now we tested it. We went back in and we said Church Growth Scripture 1 in the header 2. And then if you keep going down, Church Growth Scripture 2 in the header 2, Church Growth Scripture 3, and then we started ranking on top of Google because Google started saying, oh, look, they're serious about Church Growth Scripture. And apparently that is not too much for that search term. So we tested it and it worked. But you're generally going to want to have Church Growth Scriptures in some portion of your header 2 titles. Some people say 30% to 50%. In this case, it's like a large majority because 14 of these headings have Church Growth Scripture, and that seems to rank fine. It is accurate to the titles, so Google has apparently been okay with this. So we're going to move on from header 2 titles. So we're going to have header 2 titles. You can also have that Church Growth Scripture in a header 3. And in this case, this is not a header 3. This appears to be a normal text. But if you do have even subpoints under the header 2, because it's a long section, you can include it in some of your header 3s, and that's fine. Now, lastly, and least important, but still good to do, is to include keywords in the text. So, you're writing, let's say, Church Growth Scripture 3, and we might say, in the third Church Growth Scripture, Jesus spent his ministry, and then going on. So we can drop that in there here and there, and a lot of SEO technicians, whatever you want to call them, SEO people, will say we want somewhere between a 1 and a 1% keyword density. So that means for every 100 words in the article, 1 to 1.5 should have to do with a keyword. And this doesn't necessarily mean it's the focus keyword. And so far, that's all we've talked about. We'll get more into additional keywords that we can include as we go through the article, or excuse me, as we go into the next video. But there can be more than one keyword in an article. And of all the keywords that may be included, 1 to 1.5 words out of every 100 words should have to do with the keyword or keywords you're targeting. And that can be in normal text. So this is normal text as we go through. And so that's something else to consider as we go through the articles and we're writing. We want to include the keywords sporadically and comfortably in the text. We don't want to just stuff them in there. We don't want to be doing 5% or 10% of the text as keywords, because Google is going to look at that as what is called a black hat SEO strategy. Black hat being malicious and trying to circumvent the rules. Other examples of this, when people figured out what keywords were, I don't know, I assume in the late 90s and early 2000s, they started, for example, saying like this. They would go keyword, 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 and they would do this a bunch of times, keyword. And then what they would do is they would turn it like this, and they would say white. Oh, wait a minute. What just happened? That's not what I wanted. None. How about text white? There we go. And they just have all these keywords stuffed in there, and they're invisible, and nobody can see them unless you roll over them and highlight. And then you're like, hey, what? But Google's bots can still see this on the back end. You can't hide this. So this is something to be aware of. We don't want to stuff keywords in. We want to use them as much as we can comfortably. It's got to make sense. So that's something to be aware of when we're talking about including keywords. We want to use them and use them comfortably, but make sure we're using them.
And I think that this is so important because in a lot of ministries and a lot of Christian businesses with, believers who are really well-intentioned and want and really have the desire to help people, they have a great content. Ministries spend so much time and energy creating video content that could really help people. And they do a great job talking to people, but they totally miss talking to Google. And so the content just sinks to the trenches of Google where the light of day will never shine. And they have no idea why. It's because they're talking to people and they're not talking to Google. And that's where you guys come in, where you're helping them reach both audiences, the Google bots and their audience. Now, this is going to continue to change as time goes on. We're going to have to start appealing to the AI bots that are searching Google or however they're getting the content. We're going to have to know. And then we're not going to have just search engine optimization. There's going to be AI optimization, whatever that means. And that is kind of coming out now. So with that, wrapping it back around here, we want to make sure we include the keywords in the header 2s, header 3s, and sporadically through the text as it's relevant. And in the next video, we're going to continue and we're going to just briefly address what are called LSI keywords or other keywords that we might use. So thanks for being here, and we'll see you in that video. God bless.